Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really happy to meet you on a weekly basis. It's great. It's great. I mean, for me, it's the best time to talk and discuss things related to proposal writing. So we will start within a few seconds. I think you can mute yourself, so I'll not try to mute you also. If anyone of you has, if anyone of you have any questions, so just you could write in the chat, or you could also you could raise your hands. I don't know if maybe if anyone of you is able to do this. So let's start. I'll start sharing today's session. It's session number 10. It's really exciting topic for me to talk about gender inclusion, gender mainstreaming. It's usually a controversial. It's like something that everybody is like talking about, but not everybody is able to understand exactly what we want to know regarding gender mainstreaming or gender inclusion in development and humanitarian response. As I mentioned in the beginning, gender is something that has like different perceptions. Some of many, or let's say many people, they are against things related to gender because they don't understand what we want to do or what we mean by talking about gender. And it's actually whether we like or we don't like, it's still part of the like the development and humanitarian agenda. We need to talk about, we need to understand, we need to take what we really need to take, because it actually helps to improve the performance. It helps us to understand how to do the analysis of the problems, how to draft, develop the proposal parts, and how to convince the donors to take and to accept our proposal for helping people. Yes, whether we like to talk about gender or not, we need to understand the idea of gender and how we really include it in the proposal and how we report regarding gender. I hope during today that I could reflect on the ideas regarding gender. I will not talk a lot about the concept of gender, only I will talk about the meaning that we really need to understand when we talk about humanitarian response or development at all sectors, whether like at all programs. So I'm happy to talk about it, and then you will have the chance to reflect, to give your idea or comment, to add anything related. So let me see. Yes, so let's start. So by today's session, I think that hopefully all of you will be able to understand the gender mainstreaming in proposal writing at all level, and also review all parts of the proposal from a gender perspective. As an expert, you will be able to understand how to do the assessment for the proposal from the gender perspective. Also, if the donor sends you comments, then you will be able to review and respond to the donor's comments from the gender perspective. And this is really important, because usually we receive a lot of comments from donors, and many of them are related to gender inclusion. Again, as every time, let's say that now we are at this level of the proposal writing, so we already moved within the loop of the proposal. Now we are almost close to the end of the project. So I mean, the end of proposal writing. So what is gender? And gender is usually, this is, although I try to take the same definition that is, I mean, if you Google it, you will find almost a similar definition for gender, but I tried to phrase it on my own words. Hopefully it's more understandable, because myself, when we were like receiving trainings on gender, it was really difficult to get the idea beyond the meanings. So gender is a social rule, and that's more than enough. What you need to know about gender in development and humanitarian response is you need to understand the different social rule. That is meet different. So this social rule is meet different for boys and girls, for men and women, but the rule is changing as a result of any change in location and time. And let me clarify more about this. So before I move to the next slide, I just want to know that to stress that it's a social rule that is changing based on location and time. So if we change location, the gender rule or the social rule might change. If time is changed, then the rule also is changed. Let's say. Uh, for example, here we can see that the same location and different rules. So if you see with me here, here we have same village, so it's like same location, but we have girls and we have boys. We notice here that we have two different rules. The rule of the girls is to do sheep herding, like looking after the sheep and taking care of like some rules within the family. While the boys, they are going to school, they are getting their education, and they are looking happy, clean, and prepared for education. Although the situation is not the best situation, but still students are going to school in the same village, while girls are going to look for they are doing sheep herding. So the rule is different. The only different here is the different in sex. So they are males, these are females. Because of this difference, they have different rules, although they are in the same age and in the same village. Let's see another example. Here, like these boys and girls, they are located in the same place, in the same city of Sana'a. And we took these pictures on 2015 when we were doing a movie or a song for back to school. And as you see here, they are looking happy. And boys are looking happy. They are really good. They are in good shape. They are in the same city, same location, same rules. Both boys and girls are going to school. What has changed from the previous picture? It's the location. So once the location has changed from a village to a city, the rules of the boys and girls at school age, for let's say if they are between 6 years and 10 years, all of them are going to schools, whether they are girls or they are boys. So it's same rules. Let's say again here now we have different location. Here this is a city and this is a village. It's a girl and this is also a girl. So they are all same sex, like females, but because the change in the location from a village to city had different rules. So this rule is, this girl's rule is to do sheep herding, while this girl is going to school. So the rule is also changed even if we have same sex because of the change of the location. If we see here as another example, this is in New York or maybe in the US, these two girls and also these girls and are also in the United States. But you see here that we have different times. It's like the 19th, beginning of 20th century, and this is 2020, this year. So you can see here that they have different rules. They have like ice. They are trying to bring ice for maybe selling ice cubes or so it's like they are doing some productive rules, but here they are doing education. So they are doing like they are working and they are learning. So it's two different rules. And the only change between these two pictures is the time. So when the time has changed, the girls, instead of working at this age, they went to school. So the rules is changing because of the changing in times, although it's the same location. I hope by these maybe three examples, I have drawn you like your attention that the important thing we consider, I mean, the important thing that we take care of regarding gender is the changing in rules because of the changing of time and because of the changing of places. We need to agree on this before we move. And that's why here I said it's all about social rules. The social rules are changed. Let's say in these pictures, we see the girl is bringing like fetching water, going and bringing water for the family. This girl is doing sheep herding. These boys are studying. These women are like fetching water. That's why they are waiting for the water truck to bring water to the water tank, and so they could fill and go back home. The same here for women. This boy is like is a shoemaker, so he's like working. These girls are studying. So the location is changed, the rules is changed. We could bring also like pictures for men. They are having certain rules. So what is really shaping the rules is the location and time. For example, these women, if they are not in the village, the rule will have changed. So if these women are in the city, especially if they are like in advanced or modern cities, they will be at home. Maybe they are going to work. Maybe they have their own jobs. They have their own businesses. They might be university students. They might be school students. They might be school professor. I mean, university professors. So the rules will have changed if we have changed the location. This is the theme for this girl, the theme for this girl, the theme for this girl. These boys are going to school, although they are out, or like they don't have a nice classroom, but still they are going to school. Even the condition is bad, but still they are going to school. So we need to see that the social rule here is not um, when we talk about the community leaders, the families, like the parents, mothers and fathers, they don't understand that they are giving different rules for boys and girls, and that this is conflicting their basic needs. So, for example, like education is a basic need for girls and boys, but the community is already or has already shaped the rule of boys to go to school, while the girls they go to sheep herding or bringing water for the family. The gender roles in proposal writing. That's what's our this is our topic for today. But before I started here, I wanted to talk about the rules from like as a concept. So if we need to consider, like when in proposal writing, we need to consider the different gender roles in three phases of the proposal writing. So when we do problem analysis and needs assessment, we need to make sure that we talk about the different roles of men than women, the different roles of boys and girls, the different boys of, the different roles of, let's say, handicapped people or the people of special needs. They have also in the communities, they have different rules. The vulnerable people, the poor people, sometimes they have different rules. So many rules is changing based on this, like the social level. The community have certain traditions, certain norms. They are trying to push like for different rules while they don't know about. And that's why we need to consider this when we do problem analysis and needs assessment. The same thing when we write outcomes and outputs, and also on activities. I will give you many examples. So we will show, like we will go through many examples here in the slides, and also I will show you in real proposals uh, and how the NGOs are making sure also with the donors that they are doing gender analysis and mainstreaming. So let's go. Um, Project assessment from a gender perspective. This is a table where I try to put everything in one place. So usually as donors are seeing the proposals as like three different levels. There are proposals or projects that are gender blind, and there are gender sensitive proposals, and there are gender responsive and gender specific. So it's like different levels of the proposals. Usually, if the donor is doing assessment for the proposal and they found that the proposal is gender blind, they will reject the proposal. So no funding will be given for the proposals that are gender blind. You need to know that you need to make sure that your proposal is not gender blind. If it's sensitive, then the donor will consider, will give you also comment to improve. So the proposal usually needs to be gender responsive or gender specific. Let's go for examples. For example, when you do the problem analysis and needs assessment, so when you are writing it, you will say that, for example, you will see that there are 1,000 children drop out of school in the targeted area. So you don't say, you just see children. You don't care if they are boys or girls who are affected more, boys or girls. You just say 1,000 children. So when you just say children, for example, you see here in the activities, distribute 1,000 school bags for students. You just mentioned students. And also for the outputs and outcomes, you say 1,000 students received school bags. So if you are writing like this, you just say students, children, this is gender blind. It means that you never care who are affected, who has benefited, and you don't care if you are going to implement and give the boys and girls their equal or equitable rights. I think we have a comment here. Let me see. Yes, Iman, I will talk about it, and maybe we will go through examples. Iman was asking if we can elaborate more how do we emphasize like gender roles in needs assessment. So usually when we design like the collection, if we are going to do needs assessment on the field, we need to make sure that the questions we are developing are giving answers for boys like differently than girls. Like, so we will have different answers for boys, different answers for girls, also different answers for men and women. That's in terms of data collection. But when we also when we are writing the proposal, we need to make sure that we don't say just individuals, children, schools, like students. Let's see, when we say gender sensitive, for example, here we have the problem analysis for the sensitive proposal. They see 1,000 boys and girls drop out of school. This is in the analysis. So they mentioned boys and girls, but they don't see how many boys or how many girls are affected. So it's like they started to consider that there are like boys and girls, but they didn't go directly and mention how many boys and how many girls. Also here in the activities, when they were like writing the activities, they said distribute 1,000 school bags for boys and girls. Mentioned boys and girls, but didn't mention how many for boys and how many for girls. The same for outcomes and outputs. Maybe it's like 1,000 boys and girls, and it's not enough. When the proposal is gender responsive, we say 500 boys and 500 girls. It might be, I mean, it could be like different numbers, but we need to mention the number. For example, it could be 500 boys, 600 girls, 200 boys, 800 girls. It's okay. We don't need to make them equally or like equal numbers, but we need to mention, and it's good if we know exactly the number. And also, if we are just proposing a number, then we need to like propose the number based on our activities. We talked about that during the beneficiary calculation, the session from the previous sessions. So I think you know already how to calculate, but in general, we need to mention how many boys and how many girls drop out. And here, for example, we said, and 70% of the parents do not support girls' education. So here we mentioned that girls are affected even more in the problem analysis. In the activities, we said distribute 1,000 school bags for targeted students, and we mentioned here that 500 for boys and 500 for girls. So we tried to mention a number for boys and a number of girls. This is giving it like a gender responsive approach. And here 1,000 students, 500 boys, 500 girls enrolled to primary schools. So it's also, we mentioned how many boys and girls in the outputs and outcomes, and this is very much like interesting for donors. They want you to write it like this because this will make you more committed. You will be it's like a commitment. So when you implement the project, you will not neglect girls. So you will not go just like as distributing or working just to benefit like the boys without and neglecting the girls for any reason. Because it became a commitment, you will need to do it and you will need to report it and prove it that this is implemented. When we say gender specific, it means that there are some activities and some projects, they are mainly done for women. For example, especially the protection projects, if it's just for girls and women. Sometimes we have, of course, protection projects could be for children, could be for men, could be for people with special needs. But also, it's like many projects, many protection interventions are very much targeting women and girls. So gender specific is mainly when we focus all the activities, outputs, outcomes, and analysis for women and girls, and or 13. Let's say that this project is only for blind people, so it's gender specific. If it's only for people with special needs, so it's gender specific. If it's only for women and girls, so it's gender specific. Let's see, for example, here in the problem analysis, they said that we found in the assessment or in the needs assessment that 100 of girls or 1,000 girls in the age of or at the age of 6 and 18 are not enrolled in schools. So here we considered girls even more in the needs assessment. So this is gender specific. So this sentence is gender specific because we are talking only about girls, and we mentioned the number. Here the activity we say like distribute school bags for 1,000 girls at school age. So this is also specific for girls. So it's specific. Output and outcomes the same. 1,000 girls in school age or at school age 6 to 18 enrolled to primary schools received school bags. So we are talking just about girls at school age, which means that this is gender specific. I hope this is giving you more idea and more clarification. I will go through more examples so to make it very clear. Before I go to the examples, I want you to see how donors are evaluating the proposals. Usually the donors have some tools. For example, I give you this Isaac GAM. It's called a gender and age marker. Sometimes it's GAMM, gender and age monitoring matrix. So gender and age matrix is, or gender marker, sometimes they say it. So for this, just notice that this is mistake. So it's interagency committee. So the gender and age matrix or gender marker is usually used by many donors working on humanitarian response. For example, OCHA, Oxfam, and others. They are using sometimes they are using their own matrix. But let's see here. Let's say I am a donor or I am a consultant working for the donor, and the donor gave me the proposal and told me, please do the assessment, do the evaluation for the proposal, and give it like the score out of 5. If you noticed here that I mentioned 5, So usually if the proposal is having an evaluation or is having 100 marks, usually 5 out of 100 is given for gender mainstreaming or gender inclusion and analysis in the proposal. So if we have 5 out of 100, we need to keep it and we need not to lose it because it's usually easy to do it. So let's say if the donor read the proposal and they found that in the need assessment or the problem analysis we mentioned how women are affected, how girls are affected, how boys and how men are affected like differently and separately. We mentioned this, so they give us like yes, so it's like a correct or it's like a good way to do it. And then in the activities, if we mentioned how many boys and how many girls are benefiting or how many men and how many women received awareness, how many let's say teachers, men teachers and women teachers trained or are we going to train, how many women doctors and or women or health service providers, how many women, how many men are going to be trained. So if we mention this in the activities, then this is also a good sign. And also for outputs and outcomes, if it's a good sign, then it's like number of stars or checks like of correct answers is like 3. So the gender level is 2B or 2A, depending if it's like gender specific or not. If it's 2A or 2B, then we will receive 5 out of 5. If they find that, okay, we did good in the need assessment, we did good in the activities, but in the outputs and the outcomes, we just mentioned, like, let's say we said 1,000 individuals benefited. We didn't see how many men, how many women, how many girls and boys, then it's like wrong. So we lost one of the marks. And so it's 2 out of 3 stars. So the gender level will be just 1, and only we will get 2 out of 5 marks. So we already lost 3 out of 100, or let's say 3 out of the 5 things related to gender. Same if the need assessment is lost while this is good, it will be 1. It will be the gender level will be 1, and the score will be 2 out of 5. Also, if we lost activities, so if any one of these 3 is lost, then we lose 3 marks. If 2 of them is lost, but still the need assessment is included, also they could consider it good sign. But if we forget the activities, we forget the assessment, and we included in the outcome, then it's 0. If we didn't, if we just give like gender blind data, so we just mentioned the totals without mentioning how many boys, how many girls, how many men, how many women, then we will have 0. The gender is 0, and then the score is 0 out of 5. And usually, if the project is analyzed and noticed that it's gender blind, it is usually rejected by the donor. Even if you have 95 out of 100, so if it's if it's perfect done, the best budget, the best activities, the best analysis, but still you excluded gender inclusion, you didn't mention how many boys and girls, how many men and women at the level of at the 3 levels, then the proposal will be rejected. And this is just an explanation for the previous slide. So if it's a blind proposal, it's 0, then 0 out of 5. If it's sensitive, then 1 and 2 out of 5. 2A, it's 5 out of 5. If it's 2B, 5 out of 5. There are things you need to consider when you write a proposal regarding gender. Regardless if it's like you are doing like health or education, food security, technology, whatever is the proposal, you need to consider the gender and age monitoring matrix, and this is how you like this is like a kind of activity you could include it everywhere in the proposal. For example, when you talk about the project activities, try to add this activity. So it's added as a single activity or as a separated activity. So you mentioned we like our NGO will collect number of beneficiaries during the implementation for all activities, and the number of beneficiaries will be disaggregated by age and sex using the gender and age monitoring matrix. Usually we include this at every activity, or let's say this activity is included in every proposal, and this is helping to improve the gender marker for like for the proposal. And also when we write the meal paragraph, we could include this, that we will collect the beneficiaries disaggregated. Also, there is a paragraph for gender inclusion or mainstreaming. Sometimes the donors say justify the gender. So the gender inclusion paragraph, we also include this, that our NGO or the project will collect beneficiaries, disaggregate the beneficiaries numbers, disaggregated by age and sex using the gender and age monitoring matrix. Usually this is a really nice sign, and usually donors like it, so try to include it. I give you here a sample paragraph for gender inclusion. As I mentioned in the beginning, that for gender in proposals and development and humanitarian, it's all about gender rules. What is the social rules? So here, for example, this is a WASH project. So it's a project that was developed for water, sanitation, and hygiene. And usually we talk about how we considered, how we ensured women and girls are also benefiting from the interventions. So we mentioned here that women and girls in the targeted areas suffer more here, because we are talking about the analysis or we are talking about the problems analysis. We took that women and girls in the targeted areas suffer more from lack of sufficient clean water as a result of the remoteness of water resources or sources from villages, and the absence of accessible water projects and pumps that pumps water to houses. In addition, the community imposes the rule of fetching water. See, here we mentioned the rule of fetching water on women and girls, which represents more burden on them, and this is reflecting on all their life matters, as they spend long time and they go long distances of more than 1.5 hours to reach the water source, and return with small quantity, with quantity that is sufficient only for one person in the family, because usually the women could come with 15 liters of water per day, and this is just for one person. So if they have like 10 people in the family, like the women and girls, they have to go many times for the water source, bringing water, so that they can bring enough water for the family, which means that the girls and women will keep going to the water sources, and it's very far, and this takes a lot of time and efforts. That's why most girls do not, like in villages, they are denied an education, as they are responsible for fetching water for their families on daily basis. The shortage of water significantly affects sanitation also, and latrines use and hygiene also. As a result of women continuously dealing with water and sanitation, they are more vulnerable to danger of acute watery diarrhea and cholera. So the project will work to improve the access to clean water by rehabilitating water resources, sources, building reservoirs, installing pipes and pumps to bring water to the targeted villages, and so on. That's how we do the analysis, and that's how we mention that this proposal is going to improve the situation and bring like more water for the family to the same house, which give women and girls more time and more chances of cleanliness. Sanitation would be good for the family, less vulnerability, and more protection for women. They could go to school and many things. That's how we should mention in the proposals. I give here some examples from real projects. I copied this from our projects that I used to develop, and also for some of NFHR projects. So, for example, I would show you here this outcome, and let's examine ourselves. So project description, is this a gender sensitive? Is it a gender blind? Is it a gender responsive? Is it a gender specific? So please, you could answer in the comment. For the first sentence, is it gender sensitive? Let me see if you could. So this is an outcome of the project. Is it sensitive? Is it blind? Is it responsive? You could answer let's say here, conduct a training workshop for community health volunteers in hygiene on hygiene promotion and community engagement approaches. This is an activity. Is it gender blind? It's like now we are doing evaluation for different parts of the proposal. So this is an activity. Is it gender blind? Is it gender sensitive? Is it gender responsive? How about the third? Most vulnerable IDPs and conflict-affected communities consisting of 16,000 individuals, men, women, boys, and girls, received shelter support services through the provision of this and this in targeted districts. This is an outcome. Also, this is another outcome. 11,850 students are provided with school supplies, education materials, and school desks, and 600 students benefit from semi-structured classrooms in the targeted district. This is an outcome. Is it gender blind? Is it gender responsive, gender specific, or gender sensitive? The theme here is like 25 temporary learning classes or semi-structured classrooms supported to provide education in emergency settings to 12,000, 6,000 boys, 6,000 girls of conflict-affected and internally displaced students in 4 cluster prioritized districts. This is an output for an education project. So how do we see it? I'm trying to open the chat. I think with sharing. Okay, I could. So here we say two gender responsive. Let's say Iman said 2 is responsive, 3 responsive, 3 specific. 3 responsive, 4 blind, gender responsive. So let's say I will bring it back. Let's talk about the first one. So please answer the first one. Is it gender blind, responsive, sensitive, or specific? Just answer number 1. Nashwan mentioned that it's blind. Okay, Abdullah said it's gender blind. Iman also said it's gender blind. So this will receive 0 from the donor out of 5. If we all agree that it's blind because it's just individuals, then we should agree on this. Okay, that's true. It's gender blind. Thank you so much for the answers. It's gender blind because it mentioned individuals. We don't know how many men, women, boys, and girls are benefiting from the safe drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene. So it's gender blind and 0 out of 5. Okay, let's all answer number 2. This is like an activity, conduct training workshop for the community health volunteers on hygiene promotion, community engagement approaches. Is it gender blind? Is it sensitive? Is it responsive? Is it specific? because here we didn't mention, no mention for numbers, no mention for whether they are female volunteers, women, men, are they boys and girls, are they women or men, are they, so it's gender blind too. All of you mentioned that it's gender blind, and that's true. This is a gender blind, and also this could receive 0 out of 5. And if I am a consultant, I will give it 0 because it didn't mention how many. Even if we mentioned that on the budget, even if we mentioned it on some many of you would say, okay, we already we are going to have an indicator. In the indicator, I will mention how many men and how many women. But the indicator is not enough. You need to mention this in the activity. Okay. How about number 3? Responsive. Responsive. Perfect. It's usually gender responsive. Abdullah mentioned that it's specific and responsive. We could, although women and girls are included here, but we consider this responsive. If it's only like an outcome for women and girls only, then we call it, we could say that it's specific. So yes, it's responsive. Thank you so much, Buthaina, Nishwan, Fatma, and also Abdullah. I don't know if ASH. I don't know who was if ASH. Yeah. So thank you so much for your answers. Yes. So how about number 4? Okay. Yes, Faris. Thank you so much. Yes. Yeah. So let's answer number 4. Iman mentioned it's blind. This outcome is blind. Fatima said it's blind. Abdullah mentioned that it's specific for children, but gender blind. I think if we usually consider it blind, yes, even if it's specific for students, but we need to know how many girls, how many boys. Okay, so number 4, Ramdan mentioned it's specific because it's just mentioning students. We don't know girls and boys, then it's blind. If it was for girls, then we could consider it specific. Okay, Muhammad and Faris also blind. Yes, so number 4 is blind. Okay, let's move to number 5. Number 5, train 25 outreach workers, 12 men, 12 women on rapid protection assessment. So yes, how about number 5? It's an activity, so what do you think about number 5? I think it's easy. Number 5, although number 5 is about protection, but the activity mentioned that the training or is targeting 12 men and 12 women. So the activity itself is gender responsive because it's mainly like it is going to respond to men and women, and we will have outreach workers for 12 men and 12 women. So it's responsive. But if we are talking about its outcome, it will be specific. So still is good. So it's going to be 5 out of 5 because it mentioned how many men and how many women. Okay, great. So responsive. How about number 6? Okay, so all of you mentioned that number 6 is responsive. Perfect. This is great. Thank you so much. That's all true. So these are the answers. As you all see that it's correct. So thank you so much for your inputs and answers. This is very helpful, and this is the way that the donors and the consultants are doing an evaluation for the proposals from gender perspective. Usually, we used to say that it's gender lens. So sometimes they say that it's gender lens. If you use your gender lens, you will be able to do this evaluation in a very easy way. So thank you so much for this. I could give you many more examples if you are still interested. And we could see real examples from funded proposals. I will take you to the NFDHR portal account, and we could see we could go through many proposals, and we could together decide if it's a proposal like gender responsive, if it's not responsive, if it's blind or not blind, depends on the parts that we will visit on the proposals. But before we go to the proposals and on Portal 365, I would be happy if you could review your proposals from the gender perspective. And also when you develop future proposals, I hope that this will help you to develop your proposals and from like you make sure that any number is also disaggregated for men, women, boys, and girls, whether you are writing the proposals or collecting reports, whether the report is about activity, about awareness session, about a campaign or whatever, you need to collect information that is disaggregated by each and six. So that's the review from gender perspective. Also, work on your paragraph of the proposal at Portal 365. So before we close today, I will, together with you, I will share with you the account of NFDHR in Portal 365, so we could together decide if the proposals are. Let me try to open. Yes. Okay. So if I share with you the screen. Okay. So I will sign in to NFDHR account. And we have many of NFDHR staff here. It will be helpful to see it also, because this is it's like an evaluation for your proposals. So let's go to the proposals. And by the way, before I go to the proposals, when we started this training, we didn't have the donors in Portal. Now you have the donors. You could do donor prospecting in Portal 365. And you could find also grants. But let's go to our topic. So for example, let's say that we see, let's open this proposal. This is an education proposal. Let's go to background. A background, let's say if they mentioned boys and girls, if they mentioned, this is the need assessment and problem analysis paragraph. So let's say here the hopefully it's clear for you, if even if the, let's see the color of the right. Okay. Here they mentioned 1,000 IDBs, they mentioned 500 IDBs, they mentioned 1,000 IDBs. So it's like they said 10,000 individuals. So when we see numbers like this, see here we have 29 people, 24,000 people. No one mentioned how many men, women, girls, and boys. So at this level, we could consider this gender blind. Yes, this is yes. Okay. That's food security project. It's a, yeah. I thought it was an education proposal. So yes. Um, so let's see this proposal. I will open this. It's food, wash, and health interventions in Al-Rujum Al-Mahwit. So let's see the background. Hopefully we have more content. So here we are having population. Okay. We didn't see like numbers like from what is available here. It's like gender blind, but let's go to the logical framework. In the logical framework, they said here they will present the like it's to the most vulnerable people. So it's blind. This is the health and nutrition part of the proposal. So the outcome is gender blind. They didn't see how many vulnerable people, how many men, women, boys, and girls. 3 health facilities. This is gender blind too. So let's go to activities. Here they mentioned that they will monitor. They said that monitoring and reporting will be disaggregated by age and sex, as I told you. So this is helpful. This is giving good sign that this is going to be gender responsive during the implementation. So this has increased the evaluation of the project with the donor. So this is really helpful. You could include it. See, we are talking about the activities. So they mentioned that it will be like the number of beneficiaries will be disaggregated by age and sex. Okay, so let's see the food security and livelihoods part. The food security and livelihoods part, in the outcome, they said access food to individuals. They mentioned how many men, how many women, how many boys, and how many girls. So this is gender responsive. In terms of outcome, it's gender responsive. For the output, they just mentioned households like families, but they didn't mention how many boys, girls. So it's blind. Here they mentioned again that the number of beneficiaries will be collected and disaggregated by age and sex. This is good for the donors. They like it a lot. So this is helpful. But most of the activities are gender blind. Okay. Okay, it's all gender blind. They mentioned the team. They didn't mention how many boys, girls. Let's see the wash part, water, sanitation, and hygiene part. Increased access of sustained, restored, rehabilitated water systems, vulnerable people. It's all like communities and individuals. They didn't mention numbers, so it's blind. They mentioned about collecting of number of beneficiaries disaggregated by age and sex. This is giving good sign for the donors. They mentioned here 21 individuals, but they didn't mention how many boys, girls, men, and women. So it's blind. In general, it's blind. I don't know how the donor funded this proposal, but it's mostly it's blind. But maybe the good sign was on FSL, with the food security and livelihoods. This was very helpful. So this is responsive. In the other info, they mentioned that why they selected and that women will be more considered and so on. But usually we consider more about like the outcomes, outputs, needs assessment, and so on. Yes, so maybe we could see more proposals. Let's say another proposal. Livelihoods. Let's see this education proposal. Okay, we will go to the background. Maybe you have some comments. Yes, Ahmad Shami said no, this is an FSL. Yes, the FSL part is good enough. Yes, totally agree, Ahmad. The problem, as you mentioned, is all disaggregation are mentioned only in indicators. So we need to, next time, we need to make sure that, and this is good for monitoring and evaluation stuff, you need to make sure that you review the proposal before it is submitted to donors and make sure that every number is disaggregated by each and six. This is helping a lot. Thank you, Ahmad, for your note. So let's see this proposal. It is mentioning here that for the needs assessment, and the needs assessment here, they mentioned 30% the number of each district. Here they mentioned in total 34% of the sample of the need assessment were female, 66 are male. So this is a good sign. Here they mentioned men, women, boys, and girls. They didn't mention a lot. Yeah, here they mentioned this is a total number. Total number of people in acute need. They mentioned here number of children in Al Mutun, but they didn't mention how many boys and girls. So till now, it's like gender blind. Let's go to logical framework. They mentioned here one. Let's say. Children, so it's blind in the objective. Here, the outcome is 12,000 students, both internally from acutely affected areas. And they mentioned 100 teachers without mentioning how many women teachers and men teachers. They didn't mention how many students are girls and boys. So this is blind. And this one was one of the examples I gave it to you. So they mentioned here boys and girls. So this is a good sign. So this is making it gender responsive. This is really good. Here they mentioned, let's say they mentioned here how many men, how many women teachers will be trained. So this or providing incentives for unpaid teachers. They mentioned how many teachers, men and women. This is gender responsive. This is excellent example. Also here they said that they will procure and distribute school bags for 3,000 of the poorest students. And they mentioned how many boys and many girls. This is gender responsive. This is really nice. Excellent. So this is good. This is good. And here it's like when they are talking about gender, they mentioned that this project will target women, both women, boys and girls. They will mention that they mentioned that NFDHR will consider or will make sure that at least 30% of the program team is female. So this is helpful. It's like gender is considered also at the level of the project team. And for here, they talked about girls, how they are suffer from the lack of wash facilities and how this is affecting their education. So this is helping. In general, all the parts is like there are parts that are gender blind, but it was good in the outputs. In two activities, it was gender responsive. So this is giving like 5 out of 5 for this. Okay, let's find another proposal. Maybe let's see the last proposal. I will try to find. Let's see this protection proposal. This protection proposal should be at least gender specific. So let's see it. Let's see how was the background. Here they were mentioning the casualties. They mentioned how many of which are like women and children. This is a good sign that it's gender specific. Here they mentioned a total of 15,000 individuals. They mentioned how many host communities and IDPs, and in which areas. They mentioned, okay, let's find if like, okay. Persons engaged in number of community protection networks. Here they mentioned 23% are men, 22% are women, 14 are girls, 12 are boys. So this is gender specific, or at least gender responsive. This is out of 5 when we talk about the gender the needs assessment. If we go to the proposal, let's say that they mentioned the needs of 15,000. So they mentioned how many men, women, boys, and girls. This is responsive. Okay, this is good. Let's see the activities. They mentioned here training 24 outreach workers, and they mentioned how many men and how many women. So this is gender responsive. It was the same example I give it to you on the slide. So let's here they mentioned that they will train and conduct meetings with protection networks, and they mentioned that it has 18 men and 18 women, so it's responsive. So mainly this is really a good example. So it's gender responsive. I still have the curiosity to find another, like this is, I will still have one, sorry, because I said this is the final, but let's find another one as a final example. So let's see, so let's find the shelter proposal, shelter. Okay, so let's see this. This is an ongoing project. In terms of the background, it mentioned how many individuals, but they didn't mention men, women, boys, and girls. They mentioned households like families, but didn't mention how many women and girls. So it's gender blind here. Maybe it's like hidden part because it's already submitted in portal. We need to resubmit the redraft so we can read it all. But we can see like what is available like in a first glance. So here we are talking about let's find the logical framework. The logical framework, the outcome, they mentioned how many internally displaced individuals. Excellent. Here they mentioned the men, women, boys, and girls. So this is gender responsive. This is excellent example. Also here they mentioned individuals. They mentioned men, women, boys, and girls. This is excellent. Also gender responsive. Okay, in terms of activities, I didn't see any. It's like gender blind all activities. I don't know why. Okay, this is the shelter part. Let's see the wash. They mentioned households, men, women, boys, and girls without mentioning how many boys and girls, just mentioned. So this is gender sensitive because it mentioned men, women, boys, and girls without mentioning the numbers. Here they mentioned the total without mentioning how many for all of them. So this is blind. Okay, let's see here. It's all gender blind as I see here. So I don't know how to evaluate this exactly, but it's gender blind for the wash. For the shelter, I could, because of the outcomes and outputs, I could still give it 5 out of 5, or at least 3 out of 5. Although the activities need to be more clarified, and we need to mention how many boys, girls, women, and men will benefit from the different activities. I hope this is more than enough examples, and I hope it was really helpful. So I would still be happy if you give me, like, if you ask some questions. Okay, do we have to mention number of women, number of men, even if we are not sure of reaching them, especially if women in conservative areas? Yeah, Iman asked about the last question was that, or as Iman asked, do we still need to mention how many men and women even if we don't know? Yes, we need to mention, because we need to calculate from the activities. For example, if we are going to provide an assistance for 1,000 families in Yemen, like the average is 7 people or 6 people, 6 individuals at each family. So the total number is 7,000 or 6,000 thousands. Sorry. So you could apply the same beneficiary calculation matrix that we talked about 2 sessions ago, and you could provide the numbers. So you could estimate with the beneficiary calculation matrix. You could have like how many approximately the number of women, men, boys, and girls, and then you put it in the proposal. So it doesn't show that it's like a gender blind. It will be gender responsive. So please, anytime you need to include how many men, women, boys, and girls. Once you mention a number, you need to disaggregate this number by each and 6. Thank you so much. Any more questions? I hope you could have like you could have some like more ideas about gender and how it is usually assessed and included. Yes, what is the difference between gender responsive and gender specific? Yes, yes, Ramdan. Ramdan is asking about the gender responsive and gender specific. So the gender responsive, when you give, for example, you are providing health services, or water project. This like men, women, boys, and girls are benefiting. All of them are benefiting. So this is gender responsive. So it's responding to all people, and you mentioned how many of them are benefiting. But for the specific, for example, you are providing a protection project, and this it's all for women. So, for example, you provide psychosocial support for women suffering from gender-based violence, for women who are in need to protection support, psychosocial support. If the beneficiaries are mainly women, if the target beneficiaries are mainly women and girls, so it's gender specific. So it's specified for women. For example, if you are providing reproductive health project, reproductive health project usually is targeting women who are pregnant, or like during pregnancy, delivery, or after delivery, at reproductive age. So if the services are targeting women, so it's gender specific. And also, if, for example, if you are providing the project only for people with special needs, for example, this handicapped people, disabled people, so you are targeting only people of special needs, maybe the blind people, or those who have mobility problems. So you are targeting only a segment in the community, and this segment is specified for women, for people of special needs, underserved people. So it's gender specific. I hope this is clarifying your questions on that. Yes. What about sensitive activity like GBV cases? Sometimes it's difficult to reach the number of cases. Usually when we see gender sensitive, it means that from your perspective once you were planning. So usually when you plan, you need to be fully passionate about the intervention. So you need to, even if it's difficult, you need to try to to include women, men, boys, and girls when you are planning. Even if it's difficult implementation, you don't have the excuse. You don't have the excuse, or you don't. I mean, you don't need to be sensitive and don't mention how many men, women, and how many men. You need to mention it, whatever the reasons, because you don't know how donors are going to evaluate the proposal. So instead of losing uh, some uh, some marks or some of the evaluation marks, you need to have as much as possible because it's competitive and you need to be the best when the donor is evaluating the proposal. So include it, make sure that the numbers are disaggregated from the very beginning, because at the end the donor will insist that you include the numbers before they sign the agreement. So why should you neglect them from the beginning and lose some marks that could fill the proposal during the competition? Okay, Iman said, for example, for activities that are like trainings or community committees, do we have to mention how many? Exactly, I mentioned this and I give examples. Yes, you need to make sure you need to give example the numbers, how many men and men at each activity, if it's the number of like trainees, whether they are men and teachers, health workers, community committees, protection committees, shelter committees, water committees, whatever the kind of the communities, community health volunteers, you need to mention how many men, how many women, how many young men, how many women, how many children, I mean, how many boys and girls. You need to mention this. Even if it's not equal numbers, you don't need to mention, like, for example, if the training is for 20 people, you don't need to see 10 men and 10 women. You could see 15 men and 5 women, but mention it. You need to mention how many men and how many women, even if it's unequal. Um, okay, what if we don't find them? If you don't mention them, it means that you don't know the targeted area. You didn't conduct like you didn't collect clear data. That's why, for example, if you are going to establish protection committees, for example, you need to plan from the very beginning that you will include women and men. So you need to mention the number, and you could also establish separate protection committee or shelter committee for women and another separate for men. So you need to do it, and you need to include the number separated. We don't have an excuse and to say that we don't find them when we implement. We need to consider this. We need to put it in the proposal because this is going to like lose some evaluation marks. So it's much better to include the numbers. It's not just much better. You have to include the numbers. I participated in many evaluation committees with the donors, and it was like this was one of the signs that we lose some marks. So that's one of my advices. Please include disaggregated numbers every time, whether you are doing the situation analysis or need assessment, or you are writing an activity, you are developing the objective, the outcome, the output, you are doing the monitoring evaluation part. So wherever you are mentioning a number of people, number of individuals, students, doctors, whatever, or committees, you need to mention the number disaggregated by age and sex. So Abdullah said, can we mention how many men and women as an expectation during? Exactly, Abdullah, yes. As long as we are writing the proposal, it's expectation. A proposal in itself is a proposing. It's like it's not like 100% correct. So what we propose is that we will mention. So we propose to reach 1,000 men and 700 women. We could also write like this. This is correct. This is good. We could mention less women, but we should include it. We should mention the number even if it's not equal. Thank you so much for your questions and enriching the session. I will still be happy to discuss this topic in the LinkedIn group, or we talk individually if you want. So don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's difficult timing from 5 to 6, but still, thank you so much for trying to make it. I will be happy to meet you again next week talking about the budget of the proposal, and I will wish you a nice evening. Thank you so much.